Welcome to Travel Tales, a mini-series within Distress to Joyful Bailey's Way podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Raber, here to travel the world with you. In each episode, you'll hear firsthand how my travel experiences have gone, both within the United States and abroad. Together, we'll discover new cultures, learn about a variety of new places for you to go out and explore, bring light to how I navigate my bipolar disorder while traveling, and, most importantly, we'll have fun. You'll leave each episode stocked full of exciting new ideas, interesting information, and feeling like it's time to hop on a plane. So come on, friends, let's start exploring. Hello, friends. Let's go ahead and get started with day 5 of our trip to India. This is called Celebrating Holi because we celebrated Holi. So let's go ahead and dive in, and then you'll get to learn what Holi is if you don't already know. So we woke up pretty late this morning after getting some well-deserved rest following all of the travel and adventure surrounding our recent trip to the Taj Mahal. As I was slowly coming to, I noticed a sound coming from below that was much different than I'd heard on previous mornings in Mumbai. Moni promptly reminded me that today is Holi. Excitement began to fill my body as I realized that today is the day that I finally get to play Holi, and in India for that matter. The morning was pretty slow. The morning was pretty slow moving as we didn't have plans to go play Holi until early in the afternoon. So I spent most of the morning watching the people of Tanvi and Jigger's apartment community celebrate, sing, dance, and play in the colors of Holi down below. Their third-story balcony was positioned perfectly for me to gaze in awe at all of the fun, steadily creating an irresistible desire in me to go and join them. In hindsight, I probably could have just walked down there and joined them as well, since Indian people are typically very warm, welcoming, and friendly. But instead, I continue to just curiously watch from above. So, that said, let me pause for a moment because I realize here in this article that it doesn't really explain what Holi is. I can't believe I didn't explain what Holi is. Probably because it's a journal and I know what it is. So, there's that. But Holi is a religious festival that happens every year in India. And I'm actually going to stop and Google it so that I don't screw anything up. Because that's the last thing I want to do. So let me explain. So it's a popular and significant Hindu festival celebrated as the festival of colors, love, and spring. It celebrates the eternal and divine love of the god Radha and Krishna. Oh, Krishna. Okay. So Krishna is mom's god. So that's why I recognize that immediately. So let's see here. So it's celebrating the triumph of good over evil. So that is most likely in the Bhagavad Gita, which is a book of Hindu epics. I have not read it yet. I actually have it on my shelf. I'm pointing towards my bedroom because it's on my shelf of books to read. I believe mom gifted me that one. I don't think I bought that myself. I'm pretty positive she gifted it to me. And I'm excited to read it. And that's going to help me really understand these festivals a lot more. But Holi is really known for the playing of the colors. And what that is it's basically like powders, right? So if you've ever done one of the color runs here in the United States, then you'll completely understand because it's kind of a similar concept, but it's just powders that are colors and you throw them on people and you just have fun with that. And everybody is just having a good time dancing and singing and eating. And it's a national holiday for most people. Most people are off. And so it's just a day of fun and celebration and just a reminder of like the triumph of good over evil. So, with that said, let's talk a little bit more about my experience getting to play Holi, which is what they call when you throw the colors on each other. They call that playing Holi. So, if I say that, that's what I mean. We're throwing colors. If you stay until the end of this episode on YouTube, if you're watching there, you'll see I'm going to put some of those videos and definitely all the photos, and you'll see how fun it was. You can also, if you're not on YouTube, At the end of this episode, you can click in the episode description and it'll take you right to YouTube and you'll get to see all of the beautiful colors and all the fun that was had. It was great. It was super great. So, finally, it was time to get ready and make our way to a local bar for an afternoon of celebration. I was so pumped. I really was. I was so excited. Moni and I dressed ourselves in quote trash clothes, which is what we call clothing that we could ruin and discard later if necessary, including white t shirts to hopefully catch some of these colors for good. Spoiler alert, the color did not stick forever like I'd hoped. And I actually later learned in my fashion textiles class that this is because the powdered pigments that we were throwing on each other, they must be combined with a chemical in order for it to actually permanently dye our t-shirts. It was such a bummer. I was so sad when I realized that the color just washed away when we got in the shower with these clothes on. It's like, damn, what the hell? I thought these were dyes. They're not. In order to dye things, it's a chemical reaction involved, and we did it safely with these powders and water, so no issues there, guys. I actually asked my professor that. I did. I was like, "Wait a second." He was like, "No, no, no. If there's no chemicals, it's fine." And I was like, "Okay, good." So, due to the bar being pretty close to Tunvi and Jigger's place, we all walked instead of bothering with catching a ride in an auto. So the usually jam packed and busy streets were empty as it was a national holiday, which felt both odd and confusing. As we approached the bar, I began to hear the loud roar of festive music and my excitement intensified. When we finally made it to the entrance, there were people, quote, guarding the door who checked for our reservation, and then they gave us wristbands to wear, which signified that we had paid our ticket to attend. Upon entering, I immediately noticed the buffet table to the right, which is why the wristbands were necessary. We secured ourselves a large table on the patio for the six of us to gather around, as the inside was completely packed and also super fucking loud, like ear deafening loud. So the area inside also contained a dance floor, which was crowded with happy patrons dancing the day away. All of this was quite overwhelming at first. Mona grabbed my hand and led me onto the dance floor to help me get into a more festive mood. I found it to be loud, way too crowded, and hot as fuck, y'all. Three things that can often overwhelm me individually. So the combination of these created much more intense feelings of frustration. And Moni could actually see this building within me because he's an amazing fiance and I love him so much. So he relocated us to the area to the left of the dance floor where all of the holy colors were laid out. And this instantly lifted my mood as I had been wanting to play Holi since I first learned about this Indian holiday back in 2020. Now, the real fun can begin. So you can check out a video, like I said, to see what playing Holi consists of and what that's actually like. And it's so much fun. You can find the videos in the article that I wrote or just straight up on YouTube on my channel, whichever. So once we settled down for playing Holi, we made our way over to the dance floor. So most of the music that was played was in Hindi, and my knowledge of the language wasn't super advanced at the time. So I wasn't really able to pick up many of the lyrics, but that did not matter. Rhythm knows no language, and moving my body to the beat was such a freeing experience. And due to my sobriety, I didn't have any liquid courage to assist with confidence. So I was a little shy and self conscious on the dance floor in the beginning. As time went on, I realized that it did not fucking matter how my dancing might look because no one cared. No one cared. And it was all about having fun and just releasing all of the feel good endorphins, all of the feel good endorphins that dancing loves to do for the body. After spending quite a bit of time on the dance floor, most of us needed a little break and some of us needed another beer. So we made our way back to the patio and found seats at our table. By this time, the Dolwala appeared and added additional hype to the already hyped up atmosphere. Somehow, which guys, to this day, it still amazes me. I don't know how he did this. Jigger managed to get the drum away from the Dolwala and he was playing it himself. Intrigued, I walked up to Feeling intrigued, I walked up to Jigger and he offered to let me play along with him. So at first, I was just banging on the drum randomly, though I was encouraged to create a rhythm. So I did just that. And surprisingly, I caught on very quickly and we had a blast playing this traditional drum. So let me pause for a sec and explain this. So, the Dolwala is a man who has a big ass drum. It's usually like strapped to the front of him and he's playing it and it adds hype like I just said to the room. So a lot of times, specifically at weddings, there's almost always dolwalas at weddings. You'll find them at parties, big events, big occasions like this, festivals. There's a guy there and he's playing a drum and he's usually playing it to the drum of the music that the yeah, he's playing his drum to the beat of the music that the DJ is playing. So again, it just adds more hype because it adds a live music effect to the DJ's music that's playing. And I would assume it's a lot cheaper to just add a dolwala to the DJ instead of trying to get a live band. That's just my thoughts. My what That's what I would guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I also wonder now that I think about it, in the US, in the US, oh my God, my voice is not having it today. So in the US, we have bands all the time. We have cover bands, we have, garage bands, we've got high school kids doing bands, college kids doing bands, adults doing bands. You got bands everywhere. You can easily find yourself a cover band to play for your wedding, your event, your festival, whatever you're doing. I wonder if that's the case in India. I really do, because I don't know that any of Monish's friends are in a band. I don't know that any of his family is. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone being in a band of all the Indian people that I know, and I know a lot of them. So I'm super curious if you're tuning in and you are from India or you live in India right now, dude, send me a DM on Instagram at distress to joyful underscore Bailey's way and let me know. Like, let me know, are like garage bands a thing? Or so a garage band, it's a group of people who just get together and create a band for fun and they play small events. So they might not make up their own music. They might just play music that's already been written. That's what a cover band is for those of you who might not know. I am really curious if that's a thing in India because I've never heard of anybody mention that. I haven't. And here in the US, I actually know quite a few people who are in these cover bands and do this kind of stuff. And so that's why I'm like, hmm. So yeah, or if you're on YouTube, just drop a comment on this exact video and let me know because I'm so curious. Okay, so back to the story, back to day 5, where we were celebrating Holi. So sorry. So at this point, Moni's longtime friend, Visat, arrived and surprised Moni as he had no idea that Visat would be showing up. So Visat and I actually spent a good portion of the afternoon chatting as he, like many of Monish's friends and family members, had been wanting to meet me and now was finally his chance. So he was the first of many of Moni's people that I would meet, spend time with, and get to know while on this trip. The pandemic made the distance between our residing country, the US, and Moni's motherland, India, so much larger than it already is, but I was determined to not take any of these meaningful moments for granted. So we stayed at the restaurant well into the late afternoon, playing Holi, dancing, making friends with people at the tables nearby, eating, drinking, and just enjoying the day. Eventually, we all decided that it was time to leave, so we moved our party back to Tunvi and Jigger's apartment. By this time, a few more of Moni's friends had joined, increasing our party from the original 6 members to more than 9. So I do want to add in a side story that I did not talk about in this article that I wrote because it's hilarious and I'm like, how did I leave this out? It's super funny. So, probably like early afternoon, maybe like 2 or 3 o'clock. The table next to us, they were a little rowdy, which, like, whatever, it's a holiday, everybody's getting rowdy, everybody's drinking, like, fuck it, right? They were getting a little rowdy, and somebody had taken a beer and shaken it up, and it had, like, sprayed, right? Because if I mean, that's what happens when you shake up a beer bottle, it just pew, spurts out everywhere. So they had shaken one up, and it kind of hit our table, and we looked over and like, "What the fuck? We're getting splashed with beer, like, gross." So Jigger takes one of the hot beers that was sitting on our table and does it back to them. So it kinda goes back and forth until somebody from the restaurant came over and was like, "No, no, no, you guys can't do that." So they stopped. But what ended up happening is that table and our table, we just all became friends and we all just started hanging out together. We formed this huge circle and we were all dancing in a circle together. And it was just so much fun. But it was also like, y'all, this is what happens in India. You just make friends with people and you just hang out. And at the end of it, nobody like exchanged numbers, nobody exchanged Instagrams. Like, we didn't do that, but we just enjoyed the day and the time that we had together because that's what matters. Like, you enjoy the company who's presently in front of you. And it was a lot of fun, like just hanging out with these random people, like dancing, talking with them, chatting. They were like hugging us and all kinds of stuff. Like, looking back, I'm like, this does not happen in the US. This just doesn't happen like it did there. And what was also really funny is at one point, one of the guys from that table, he went to the buffet and he grabbed gulab jamun. I'm pretty sure it was gulab jamun. I could be wrong. There is a video. I don't think I put the video on YouTube, but now I'm going to have to because I'm describing it. But he grabbed some food, some kind of dessert from the at the buffet table, and he brings it over and he's got it in his hand and he's got a spoon. And he takes the one spoon the whole time, and he's using that one spoon and scooping up this dessert and going person to person and feeding everybody with the same spoon. The same spoon, y'all. If you're not sitting there like, "What the fuck?" I was sitting there like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "What is happening right now?" Then he gets to me, and I look over at Moni like, "Am I supposed to eat off this spoon that everybody else has been eating off of? Like, is this really happening right now? This is a stranger. I don't know this dude. Like, what's going on here?" And Moni had been drinking and he just looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, like, just do it, just do it." And he's filming the whole thing. So, like I said, there's a video of this. And so I just eat whatever the fuck's off the spoon. He's like, "Good, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, great." And he walks away and I'm like, "What the fuck just happened? What just happened?" But guys, that right there, that is just one of like a million examples of how I have just learned to go with the flow when I'm thrown to the wolves. And it happens a lot less now because I really understand Indian culture at like a much deeper level than I used to. But when Moni and I started dating, I used to tell him all the time, he just throws me to the wolves, and he doesn't mean to. He doesn't realize that things that they do in his culture are like complete not things that we do in American culture. Like, we don't fucking do that. So, for example, when I met his friends for the first time, I met his 4 best friends. They've all been friends since, they were 7 years old. We went to Louisiana and it was Nashir's birthday. So it was Nashir and his wife Poonam, and my pa was there, and Chintu was there, and Chintu's friend was there. And this was right before the pandemic, y'all. And we show up, and his birthday was the next day. And so we stayed up until midnight. Everybody stayed up till midnight so that we could celebrate midnight, which is when his birthday starts. And that's a huge thing in Indian culture. You stay up till midnight and you wish exactly at midnight and you start celebrating then. So it's time for cake. We've got cake. He blows out the candles, I believe. I don't remember if that's a thing. I'm pretty positive it was, though. And then he takes a spoon and he feeds somebody cake. And then they take a spoon and they feed him cake. And this is going between everybody. Like, he's feeding a bite of cake to every person in the room, and they are right afterwards feeding him a bite. Y'all, we do this at weddings in the US. Like, the bride and groom feed each other cake, and that's it. Nobody else does this shit. We do not do this at birthdays. This is not a thing. So then it was my turn, and I'm like, "I just met this guy 2 hours ago when we arrived, and now you're feeding me cake? This feels real intimate since we only do this at weddings here in the US. Like, what is going on?" And I just went with it because I'm like, "Well, like, everybody else is doing it, so this must be, a typical thing that happens in this culture, so fuck it, let's just do it." And again, those are just 2 examples of, like, a million different things that I've just been thrown to the wolves, and I'm just like, "Whatever." And I really do truly think that that is part of why Moni and I work so well, because I've been put in situations that he doesn't know are not typical situations here in the US, and I just go with it because I love to experience new things, and I am open to understanding and experiencing new cultures. So, it's never really been an issue. There's never really been anything that I've been freaked out about. I mean, I say that now, I should probably knock on some wood. Hold on. There we go. I'm about to go back to India in December. Let's make sure I don't jinx myself, especially since I'm going for my wedding. But yeah, so that's just a little funny story and a side note I wanted to throw in because we're experiencing Indian culture in these articles that I'm relaying to you guys. And it's fun. It really is. It's fun. But again, that's why he and I work because there's a lot of Americans who, if they were put in these shoes of mine, they would freak out. Like, I can think of people I know on the top of my head who would freak out and say something or like back up and be like, what the fuck's going on? Whereas I'm just like, okay, whatever. So, upon entering Tunvi and Jigger's apartment, I immediately asked if I could shower first. So, I was just so ready to wash off all of the colors, sweat, and spilt beer. As we all took turns getting cleaned up, the drinkers kept on drinking, and the non drinkers just enjoyed the company and camaraderie around us. As dusk grew, I mentioned that I wanted to go check out the rooftop terrace of the apartment complex. So the entire building contains a total of 22 floors, which I was so mesmerized by because they technically live in the suburbs of Mumbai. So the suburbs in the US contain nothing of this sort. We do not have giant buildings like this that people live in. We don't. I grew up in the suburbs. We didn't have this. So it's also important to note that in India, they call the first floor the ground floor, and then the second floor is the first floor. And then they just count upwards from there. So when I first asked how many stories this building contains, I was told 20 floors because the ground floor and the rooftop terrace were not included in that count. So starting from floor 1 all the way up to floor 20, you're not counting the ground floor, which nobody lived on the ground floor at their apartment complex. That was all like parking. And then they have the rooftop terrace, which is also not counted. So that's how I got 22 because I'm like, wait, 20. And then we get in there and I hit 21 for us to get to the terrace. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So all of us, quote, young people, and by young people, I mean everybody excluding mom and dad, we all hopped into the elevators and made our way up to the terrace so that we could watch the sunset. Y'all, it was so beautiful. And while we were up on the terrace, I found a ladder where we could climb up and catch an even more elevated view of the city, which I love. I love climbing on shit. And so I was the first person to climb on up. And soon after, pretty much everybody else followed me up there. Not everybody, there were some people who just stayed down there. So climbing up was super easy, but climbing down, not so much. It was a little terrifying, but 1000% worth it to get to see an additional view up there. We spent the rest of the evening hanging out at the apartment with the family and friends. Mom and dad needed to wake up early to catch their train to Baroda in the morning, so things settled down a bit early. Moni and I are planning to stay in Mumbai with Tanvi and Jigger for one additional day, and then we're going to catch a train to Baroda the following day. So I was super excited for this because it would be my first ever official train ride, and I will finally get to spend time at the home that Moni grew up in. The end. Just kidding. There's obviously more days to come. But real quick, I do want to show you guys my piece of Mumbai, which, I mean, y'all can see this one on YouTube right here in the back. That one I already showed previously on the Exploring Mumbai, which I believe was day 2. Yes, it was day 2. Or no, it was day 1, part 1. That's what it was. So this here is a magnet of Mumbai, and on the magnet is actually a place that we're going to visit in day 6. So this place is the gateway to India, I believe. If I'm wrong, sorry in advance, but you'll find out in the next episode of Travel Tales. But yeah, so Moni actually had this magnet and he brought it with him to the US from before he and I were even dating. But like this is pre-2017. It's been on our fridge for a long, long time. And I've actually been here now to both Mumbai and the place shown on the magnet, which is really cool. And it's one of, I believe, let me see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 magnets from India. So this is one of 4. The other 3, I'm like, hold on, I'm like looking over there to make sure. No, it's just 4 because there's 2 on the fridge right now, 1 in my hand, and the Taj Mahal one is broken. I still can't find, I had these extra magnets hanging around, and of course I can't find them now to glue it on the back to stick it on the fridge. Yeah, so there you guys have it. Celebrating Holi. It was a super fun day. It was, guys, when I look back at this day, I just feel love and warmth and happiness. I really do. It was just such a beautiful day. It was messy. It was crazy. It was dirty. It was sweaty. It was all of that. The colors were everywhere in my hair, on my face. Moni had some blue stain on his face for a day afterwards. Dad's face was stained for a day or 2 afterwards. But it was a lot of fun. And it just felt so amazing to be with family and friends and just have a good time and celebrate a holiday where nobody got upset, where nobody was crying afterwards, like nobody got in trouble. Like growing up, my family could never celebrate a holiday without somebody getting in trouble. Like I cannot remember a single holiday where there were no tears, nobody getting mad, nobody getting upset, nobody getting sent to their room or getting in trouble. I really can't. And it's really sad. It's really sad that that's the household that I grew up in because over here in India, that was not the case at all. And this holiday is a very special holiday in my heart now because celebrating it for the first time over there with my new family, just it was so beautiful. It really was. So, well, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm excited to tell you all about day 6, where we are going to have a Mumbai adventure. So stay tuned. But until next time, take it easy, stay grateful, and be joyful. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Travel Tales. Head on over to whatishaybellsdoing.com/travel to find the resources mentioned in today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favorite listening platform or write a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on new episode releases. See you next time for another great adventure. Bye!